Hi friends, welcome to the channel Learning R is Fun. In the last two videos we have covered date and time. Basically we have started with the base R concepts of POSIX CT, POSIX ELT etc. The class for defining the dates and the date class etc. And then we went on to see LubriDate and then some functions therein. Then how to interpret the data which is available in the form of a string to a date. And then we also understood what is diff time and then how to do some arithmetic with the dates. In this video, we will be stepping into the machine learning. The first algorithm which generally is learnt is regression. We know correlation, we have already seen that, a dependent variable y, and if y is varying depending on x, then there is a relation, and if this relation is positive, we say they are positively correlated, and when x increases, y decreases, then we say it's a negatively correlated. We get a correlation value between 0 to 1, we also get the value in plus or minus. So negatively or positively correlated we come to know. But we don't know the actual relation. In regression we find out that relation. And that relation can be a simple linear equation, that is equation of a straight line. We can say y is equal to mx plus c, or in regressions we say it is beta 1 x plus beta 2 or something like that. While writing this equation, we always add one error term, because normally the relationship is not perfectly denoted by a straight line, there will be variations. So there will be error term that is generally mentioned as epsilon, which should be very small if the model is better. Now this regression line which we are trying to find out, if it is a straight line, then we say it's a linear regression. But if we require some parabola or hyperbola or some other type of curve to explain the relation, then it is no longer linear. We will be dealing with the linear regression. In linear regression, we have got again two types. One is that we have only one x and one dependent variable y. But suppose we have multiple x's. Say in the case of empty cars, we know mpg, miles per gallon, is dependent on 10 different type of characteristics of the car. Then we can say there are 10 x's available, whereas only one y is available. In such a case, we may adopt multiple linear regression. So in this session, we will be dealing with linear regression. Whenever we get into the concept of regression, etc., we need to have some knowledge of statistics. There will be a lot of jargon involved. So, say for example, in a linear model, we have already seen some coefficients are there, standard error is there, t statistic, p value, r squared, or adjusted r squared, f statistics, p value for the whole model, etc. So all these individual values we will have to interpret properly. To get into the depth of this understanding will be not possible within this short video, but still I will give a general idea as we do some RStudio work. But now certain minimum knowledge is required before going into RStudio. So we'll start off with the jargons used for the independent variables and dependent variable. When you study literature for regression or any other machine learning algorithm, you'll find this kind of words: predictors, features, regressor, input variable, covariate, explanatory variable, risk factor, exogenous variable. All these things, they are just mentioning the x's, that is the x values, variables based on which y is dependent. So y is known as dependent variable, or predicted variable, or measured variable, or regressand, or response or responding variable, outcome, output or target variable, label variable, experimental variable, criterion. Depending on the field, whether it is econometrics or finance or whether it is biology, these words are used. Therefore, when you see variety of examples and the literature when you read, you will see this kind of words. So you should know whether they are referring to y or x. So this is very important, you get familiar with these words. Now, next important concept is degrees of freedom. Now let me explain what is degrees of freedom. Suppose you got a data sample 3, 8, 5, 4, 10. Okay. And now there are 5 different data points available, and each is not dependent on other. So for this sample set, the degrees of freedom is 5, because each data is not dependent on the other at all. Now let us take another data sample D2, where we have got 5, 3, 9, 2, and there is one more data which is not known at present, but we know the mean of this data is 5. Now again here, since mean is known, the fifth data cannot be independent, because it has to be dependent on other 5, 3, 9, 2 and the mean. That is mean into 5, 25 minus 5 plus 3, 8 plus 9, 17 plus 9, 19. So it should be 6. So that their freedom is not there for this variable, blank variable, to take any data. Therefore, degrees of freedom in this case is 4. Next, we should know what is statistical significance. See, suppose there is a data, and we have got only one x. Now you found some relation, let's say, as y is equal to some 4x plus 5, and most of the data points are appearing to be like that. Now this 4 and 5, 4x plus 5, when you say this 4 and 5 are the coefficients and intercept, you can say. Now whether this has come by fluke or it has come by a real relation, so you don't know. The statistical significance decides that. If it is statistically significant, then the probability that this have come by chance or by fluke must be less than 5%. So they can be less than 5% or less than 1%. So depending on that, the p-value, we know how statistically significant the relation is. So you understand that if it is statistically significant, then the probability that it has come by chance should be very less. That is less than 5% or less than 1%. Okay. Now the opposite of this is the confidence level. That is, you have 95% confident that the relationship is not by chance. Okay. Or you can say that 99% confident that the relationship is not by chance. It is because some real factors are there. Okay, now you have understood this confidence level, 95% confidence level, 99% confidence level, or 5% significance or 1% significance, etc. Now, for all these things to understand, you should get the p-value, and if you look at the p-value and p-value is less than 5%, then we know that the chances of this relation coming by fluke is very negligible. Now let us see the steps into regression. First, we normally visualize the data using a scatter plot. It will give you whether there is a linear relation. Then you can use a box plot to see whether any outliers are there. That is the data which is not conforming to the rest of the data. Then you can see the density plot to see whether you get a normal curve, that is the response variable follows a normal distribution. Then after all this analysis, you get a fair amount of idea that there is a relation and that may be linear. Then you go on to see a correlation analysis, which gives you strength of the relation between x and y. After that, you can build a model using LM function. The LM function model gives you certain data, parameters. These parameters we try to understand. There are two tests performed. One is t-test and there is f-test. The t-test is basically for testing each of the coefficient, and the f-test is for the overall model. After doing this test, you get the values for t and f, and these values correspond basically to certain probabilities in the respective distributions, and that probability should be less than 0.05. Then we go on to build a linear model with a different context. Here, what we do, instead of making the model for the whole data and then predict and do the prediction in the unknown data, we do the prediction in the known data itself. How is it possible? By splitting the data into test and training sets. In the training sets, 70% or 80% of the rows are taken, and then you prepare a model based on that, and then test the remaining 20 rows with that model. In those 20 rows, you know actual values. Now you also predicted the values using the model, so you can see the accuracy there, whether your prediction has come true. Then you can do one more thing, that is further rigorous testing, that is done by cross validation. How do you do that? The whole data is divided into several subsets, and you prepare models for each of them, and then you compare the models, and then you get to know whether any particular group has performed in a different way. That means there are a set of data which are not conforming to the whole data. So anyhow, the last step will not do, the remaining steps will do in RStudio. Let's go to RStudio. I've got the script as usual in the editor for today's session. Let's start with the first statement, library tidyverse. So tidyverse will get loaded. Then we'll just have a look at empty cars. Empty cars dataset is something which we have already seen, but anyhow we'll have a refresher of this dataset. We have this 32 observations of 11 variables, out of which MPG is the dependent variable, and all these other variables, 10 other variables, will be independent variables. So you can have a formula as MPG as a function of all these variables. In that case, we will be doing a multiple regression. But in this session, we'll do only one variable we'll take, that is X is weight. So when the weight increases, the miles per gallon may be reducing. That's a common sense approach. So we'll see that. So we'll load the empty cars data into a variable yum so that you can type less. Now we'll do the model, linear model, MPG as a function of weight, and data is yum. So linear model, so LM function, and that model will put it into a word variable fit. That's a standard generally followed. Now fit has been created. Now there are two functions. One is predict, another is residuals. Predict function predicts the values, whereas the residuals finds the residuals. Residuals are basically the difference between the predicted and actual values in the dataset. So these two values will be obtaining through the functions here, and then these will be stored into two columns, predicted and residuals of the yum data frame. So these two statements will execute. So we have executed, two more columns have been made. So let's see the environment. Here yum. Let's look at this. Here you can see two more columns have been added, predicted and residuals. Here it is 21.0, 23.28. So 2.28 is what you are getting as residual. So now we understood what is residual. Let's go back to the code. Now we'll make a regression line. That is in ggplot, we'll give the data as yum, and then in aesthetics we have to define x and y compulsorily. So x is weight and y is MPG, and then a plot is created. In that plot we'll make a geom smooth geom, that is basically it is going to add a line as per the linear model. Method is LM and color is light gray, and SE you can see here, it is the display of confidence interval around smooth, true by default. So we can say true also here instead of false. You can say truth. true. Okay. Now we'll create the ggplot and we'll look at it. We'll be getting the ggplot here, so we can expand this. So this is the line and we have got a band. This is the confidence interval. Okay, now we'll remove this band, not required now. So we'll say C is false. Again we will execute the same plot. Now we'll have a single line. This is a regression line drawn. It's a linear line, so most likely our model will be perfect. The actual points are somewhere around this line. Okay, from that point to the line we'll draw a segment. So how do you do that? So for that we have to add a geom segment, geom underscore segment, and AS aesthetics we have to give. Extend is weight, that is for each weight point we can say y end is predicted. The predicted values are along the line, whereas the observed line is around the line. So between these two there will be a line, that is a segment, and it is given alpha is 0.2, that is just to keep the line a little bit transparent. So now we have got the lines. These are the lines. Okay. Now what we'll do, we'll adjust the size of the points based on the residual value. The residual value is here. This is small, this is big. So what we can do, we can give a color code based on the line length, the residual length. So we'll give again geom point, that is the point which you are going to plot here, will be with aesthetics color as absolute of residuals, because residuals are plus and minus. This is minus, this is plus. So we will take the absolute value and that will be the deciding factor for giving color, and then size also will be depending on this length. Okay. Now we'll look at the plot. So you have got a range of colors from dark blue to, you can say, light blue, and in this range you find from 0 to 7 the values are there. These are the residuals, and the sizes of smallest, that is the residual of around size 2 will be here, and residuals of around 6, that is the bigger one, that will be of this size. We have got that also now. But instead of this range of colors, we'll give green and red. So the range is between green to red. Green is lower, red is higher. Now these two legends have come. We don't want the legends, so we can say guides, color is false and size is false. Basically guide is the legend. We don't want this legend for color and size. So we'll have the plot nicely made, but without the legends. Now what we'll do, this is the point, actual point, but this is the point, predicted point. Now all these predicted points will plot now. So geom point, A is, Y is predicted. We'll say that, and shape is 1. Shape 1 means a small circle. Okay. So you got the predicted values. These are the observed values. The difference is your residual. We can apply a theme to make it look nice. Okay. So you understood what is residual basically. For that only we did this whole exercise. But by that we have also understood ggplot works. Now we'll take a summary of this fit. Here, this is a formula, that is MPG as a function of weight. Data is M. Residuals, we got minus 4.5 to maximum 6.8. When you look at this figure, this one or this one, this could be the maximum. Maybe this is the maximum, let us say. So on the negative side, you see this appears to be the maximum. You can say this is 16 and this is 20. So this is around 4.5. So you got this residuals and minimum, maximum, all those details are available. Then we are looking at the coefficients. There are two basically. One is intercept, another is the weight coefficient. And now the estimates are here. This is beta 1 and beta naught we say. And a standard error for this estimate is also obtained. Now we must understand what is standard error. Standard error is whenever you make an estimate, there will be always an error. Basically, any estimate, you will have a standard error. The standard error of mean, standard error of a coefficient, standard error of a proportion, standard error for a standard deviation, like that. So you get a standard error, and with the help of the standard error, you obtain a t-value. Now, t is a statistic, and once you find a t statistic, then you can find the probability. Now, what is this p-value? We have already seen what is the probability that this relations, whatever we have obtained, this relationship is exactly due to fluke or just by chance. That probability should be very less. That means these are real. And here we see 2 into 10 to the power minus 16, which is very, very low value. Here also it's a very low p-value, less than 0.05 in any case. That means these are highly significant. That means this relationship is to be accepted. So we reject a null hypothesis that can say there is no relation between x and y, and we accept the alternate hypothesis, that is we have a relation and we are getting the values of these items also, that is intercept as well as the coefficient. Now we see 3 more items. One is residual standard error, multiple R square, then F statistics. All these things are going to help whether the line is a good fit or not. Residual standard error, basically I have explained what is standard error. So similarly, whatever residuals you obtained, all these residuals are not going to be exactly correct. There are going to be errors, and residual standard error is just basically an estimate of that. And R square 0.7 is a good value. Adjusted R square comes only when basically more than one variable is available. And F statistic is basically for finding the overall significance of this model. Here we are getting a p-value. This p-value can be obtained only when you find a F statistics. And F statistic you find out based on the actual relationship between the variances of two models. In this case, the model which we have obtained and a model in which, let us say, there is no relation. So between these two models, the ratio of the variances gives you F statistics. I am not giving you the formulas, just to get a hang of things. So you find these statistics t and f. In this case, you find the t value for each of the coefficients which you are going to derive, and f is for the whole model. And when you look at the whole model also, the probability is less than 0.05. The relationship whatever you got is not insignificant. So this is how you interpret a summary. Now that we have seen the summary of the fit, let us also have a look at the correlation, which is nothing but the square root of the R squared which we have got. So correlation empty cars MPG and empty cars weight. We are getting a minus 0.86. This shows a strong correlation, and if we square this, we get 0.75. That is the R squared value which you are seeing here. This is the case when you are having only one x and the y is dependent on that single x. Okay. Now, before winding up, let us look at the diagnostic plots. Apart from viewing all these numbers, it is necessary to have a look at the diagnostic plots for linear regression. You can also have a detailed help for this plot.lm. Basically, there are 6 plots selectable by which. That means we can say which is 1, 2, 3 like that. Then we can get all the plots. So there is an explanation for each of this plot Of course, our help is generally very dense. You can get better help in the link which I have given below. So now let us create a MF row of 3 by 3 matrix. 3 by 3, that will be very small. Let me make it as, now for each I, that is for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we are asking R to plot the fit, plot the model which you have developed one by one. Instead of pressing here enter, etc., when you say plot fit, then R will prompt you to enter. So when you enter, then one plot will come, then next plot will come, like that. But instead of that, we can put it in a for loop so that you can see all the 6 plots. By default, R will show only the first, second, third and fifth plot, but we will see all 6 plots now. Okay, so we are getting all the 6 plots here. Let us have a look at it. Residuals versus fitted. Here you should be able to see a horizontal smoothing line, and the plot should be equally dispersed on this side and this side. The residual should be on either side of this line. This should be fairly horizontal. So this shows the general linearity of the model. Then you have a normal QQ plot. Here basically what happens is the quantiles of the residuals and quantiles of a normal distribution are plotted together. Then you should see that all the points align on the line. So you are able to see that. So there is a normal QQ plot. Then the scale location plot. This is also known as spread location plot. Here also you should see a horizontal line, and the point should be on either side of this. Here we are taking the square root of the standardized residuals against the fitted values. Now in this case, Cook's distance, we are having 32 points. So for each of these, what is the Cook's distance is what is mentioned here. So the Cook's distance as well as the other 2 plots, all these 3 plots are going to tell which point is most influential. That is, this regression is dependent on some of the points more than the other points. So suppose if you leave this data alone, then the coefficients will vary much. Suppose you leave this point or this point, it is not going to matter much. Whereas these are having influences. So Toyota Corolla, Fiat, and then Chrysler Imperial. These 3 are having larger influence on the data. So sometimes when regression models are plotted, you can see which data can be eliminated, because some influential points may affect the regression line. Here we are having residuals versus leverage. Basically here the leverage, when we say, it is like the values which are in the x. Some of the points are farther apart from the other points. So that is the leverage basically. And standardized residual is in the y-axis. So this plotting is done. Here what we generally look for is this red dashed lines. So this is the Cook's distance curve here. So if you see any point outside this, that is having a larger influence. So this is also showing the influence, and the same thing is being shown here. On the left hand side as well as in the right hand side top, left hand side bottom, you will see the extremes. Here x is less and y is less. Here x is large and y is also large. So in these places, if you see any point, that is having an influence on the regression line. And this is again another interpretation of this. Basically here also the labels indicate that which are basically affecting the regression. Here also you see that Fiat and Toyota as well as Chrysler. So apart from getting the summary details in numbers, you can also have a look at these plots to take a call on the regression line you have decided. So with this we will wind up today's session, and next session we will see one more example to reinforce our ideas. And in the various steps of the regression which I have shown, only one important step, that is splitting the data into test and train and then working on that, is not covered here. that will be covered in the next session. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.